He thought I was just decoration, a trophy wife to polish for parties and ignore the rest of the time. He thought my silence meant I agreed with him. He was wrong. My silence was a battlefield. It was where I sharpened my knives. And this Thanksgiving dinner was going to be my masterpiece. Sarah's coming for Thanksgiving. Don't make it weird. Maya. My name is Maya. I am 32 years old, and my husband says this to me while staring at stock tickers on his iPad Pro. He doesn't look up. His voice is casual, a simple statement of fact, as if he just told me we were running low on milk. I am standing in our kitchen, a vast expanse of white Calicut marble that costs more than the house I grew up in. The scent of thyme and sage I was prepping for the turkey brine hangs in the air, a phantom of the warmth this holiday is supposed to represent. My hand is wrapped around a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. I am gripping the stem so tightly I can feel the delicate crystal groan. It wants to shatter. I know the feeling. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city of Austin glitters 40 stories below. Indifferent. This penthouse is his trophy case, and I am his most prized possession. He announced her arrival like a business merger. Serafina, his ex-girlfriend, his current affair. He wants to bring her into our home, to my table, on the one day of the year dedicated to family and gratitude. He is testing me. He is daring me to react. I force my knuckles to unclench. I turn toward him, pasting on the smile I have perfected over 5 agonizing years of marriage. It is a bright, accommodating, empty thing. Wonderful, I say. My voice is light, airy, practiced. I'll add a place setting. That finally earns me his attention. He looks up from the screen, his eyes sweeping over me. A slow, deeply satisfied smirk spreads across his handsome face. He sees the dutiful wife. He sees the woman he has successfully broken. He thinks he has complete, absolute control. He thinks I am too weak, too dependent, too stupid to do anything but acquiesce. Good, he says, nodding once, already looking back down at his glowing screen. See easy. He's dismissed me. The conversation is over. But Grant doesn't know. He has no idea what I know. He doesn't know that I have been watching him for 6 weeks. I don't just know about Sarah. I know about the hushed phone calls, the hotel receipts hidden as client dinners, the scent of her perfume on his cashmere sweaters. That's the simple, boring part. I know about the things that are so much worse. I know about the encrypted emails. I know about the shell corporations registered in Delaware. I know what he and Sarah, his director of investor relations, have been doing at Vanguard Equity Partners. I know exactly how they've been defrauding his clients, chief among them his mentor, Julian Croft. I know this isn't an accident. I know her coming here isn't a lapse in judgment. It is the first calculated move in his plan to push me out. He wants to normalize her presence, to make me uncomfortable in my own home, to paint me as hysterical and unreasonable when I finally break. He wants to provoke me into filing for divorce, at which point his ironclad prenuptial agreement would leave me with next to nothing. I turn back to the window, staring at the panoramic view of the skyline. The pain is gone. The heartbreak I felt 6 weeks ago has burned away, leaving behind something cold and hard and sharp. I am not sad. I am terrifyingly calm. He thinks this is his invitation. He thinks he is the one setting the board. What he doesn't know is that I saw this move coming. He doesn't know that I've already anticipated his entire strategy. He doesn't realize that while he was planning to invite his mistress, I was busy sending out invitations of my own. The game started long before he spoke her name. I lift the wine glass to my lips, the crystal now safe in my steady hand. I take a slow sip. This should be fun, I say, just loud enough for him to hear. He murmurs, distracted by his rising profits. I just smile at his reflection in the dark window. And I mean it. I truly, deeply mean it. It feels like a lifetime ago. Another woman's life. 7 years ago. I was Maya Loring, one of Austin's rising young architects. My name was on the door of a small but respected firm I'd built from nothing. I designed spaces that breathed, that blended the hill country's ruggedness with clean, human warmth. I had a future. Then I met Grant. He was a supernova in the venture capital world. He didn't just walk into a room, he consumed it. We met at a tech gala where I was a nominee for a design award. He ignored the tech billionaires and spent 2 hours talking to me about structural integrity and sightlines. He was intoxicating. Our romance was a blur, meticulously curated by him. We didn't date. We acquired experiences. Dinners at Uchi where the chef sent out dishes just for him, spontaneous weekend trips to private vineyards in hill country. He didn't just promise me the world, he promised me an empire. "We're not just a couple, Maya," he'd say, his hand on my back as we overlooked the city. "We're a brand, the perfect partnership." About 6 months in, over a $300 bottle of Cabernet, he laid out the next phase. "You're working too hard, baby," he said, tracing the rim of his glass. "Your talent is wasted on spec homes for tech bros." "Grant, I'm building my company," I argued, but my voice already sounded weak. "We're building our company," he corrected. "Look, I'm closing the new fund. I need a partner, not just an employee. You have taste. You have class. You don't need to work. Maya, you need to manage our life, our homes, the events. That's the real power." He made it sound like an elevation, a promotion. I was so in love, so blinded by the sheer velocity of his ambition, that I didn't see it for what it was, an acquisition. I closed my firm. The wedding was a production, planned entirely by Grant and his formidable mother. It was stunning, cold, and had over 400 guests, most of whom I didn't know. I stood at the altar in a couture gown he'd helped me select, feeling less like a bride and more like a high-end accessory being unveiled. The first few years of marriage were a seamless transition into my new role. I was Mrs. Grant Thompson. I hosted flawless dinners for his partners at Vanguard Equity Partners. I chaired the right charities. I wore the clothes he preferred, structured, expensive, and muted. "Colors are distracting. Maya," he'd say, guiding me away from a red dress I loved. My old friends, the ones from my architect days, slowly faded. "They just don't understand our world, baby," he'd murmur. "They're not ambitious enough." My name was on the deed to the penthouse, and I had technically designed the layout, but it was his home. Every surface was polished stone or cold glass. Every piece of furniture was a status symbol, a shade of gray, black, or beige. He called it luxury minimalism. I called it a mausoleum. There was not a single trace of me left. And then, slowly, the name Sarah started to appear. Serafina. She was an old friend from his MBA program whom he'd hired. "Brilliant girl," he'd say. "Absolutely ruthless. I respect that." When I noted how often he traveled with her, he'd laugh. "Are you jealous, Maya? She's not you. She's a killer. I need her on the team." He made me feel small and domestic for even questioning it. The biggest red flag, the one that should have stopped everything, came the night before our wedding. We were at the hotel, and he pulled a bound document from his briefcase. "Just a standard prenup, baby," he said, kissing my forehead. "The lawyers insist." My own lawyer, I hadn't hired one. "Oh, don't worry," he said smoothly. "I had my guy introduce me to someone brilliant for you. She's already reviewed it, said it's very fair. She's waiting downstairs just to get your signature. A formality." I remember going down to the hotel bar, meeting a woman in a sharp suit who smiled, pointed to the signature line, and said, "It's very generous. Honey, you're well taken care of." I was 27, in love, and about to get married. I didn't read the fine print. I just signed my life away. It happened 6 weeks ago, the night the perfect marble floor cracked wide open. It was late, past 2 in the morning. Grant was asleep beside me, a dead weight in our $1,000 sheets. He had come home late from a bored dinner, reeking of expensive whiskey and a perfume that was not mine. I was used to it. I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, practicing the art of breathing while drowning. His Apple Watch was on its charging stand on the nightstand. The screen lit up. A notification from Sarah. Can't wait until she's gone. Tired of pretending. The air left my lungs. It was not a guess anymore. It was not paranoia. It was a fact, glowing in the dark. My heart did not just beat. It hammered against my ribs. A trapped bird. I slid out of bed. My movements were slow, silent. He was deeply asleep, snoring softly. I looked at his hand, resting on the covers. I reached out, my own hand trembling, and gently took his index finger. I pressed it against the sensor on his phone, which was on the nightstand next to the watch. Click. The phone unlocked. I took the phone and walked into my bathroom, the one the size of a studio apartment. I locked the door and sat on the cold marble floor. My blood was roaring in my ears. I opened his messages. The thread with Sarah was everything I expected. Crude, explicit, filled with promises of a future together. They mocked me. My clothes, my boring charity work, my naivety. That part hurt. It was a sharp, dirty pain. But it was the other applications that changed everything. I opened his email. I checked his encrypted chat app. The one he told me was just for VC business. It was not just about sex. It was about money. Millions of dollars. My trembling stopped. The hot tears in my eyes dried instantly. I found spreadsheets. I found wire transfer confirmations. I found legal documents for shell companies I had never heard of. Aperture Holdings, Apex Global. They were not just having an affair. Grant and Serafina, his brilliant, ruthless director of investor relations, were systematically embezzling money. They were funneling it from Vanguard's largest investment fund, hiding it in offshore accounts. They were stealing from their clients. And I saw the name of the biggest client, Julian Croft, the man who had personally mentored Grant, the man who had invested the first $20 million. They were robbing him blind. I kept reading. I scrolled for hours, the sun just beginning to hint at the horizon. I found their plan. It was all there, laid out in a memo. Phase 1. Siphon a percentage from the fund's capital calls. Phase 2. If Julian Croft, the primary investor, became suspicious, Sarah would handle him. The messages left no doubt what that meant. She was to charm him, sleep with him if necessary, to keep him from looking too closely at the books. Phase 3. If the scheme was ever at risk of exposure, they had a scapegoat ready, a junior analyst, a young man who idolized Grant. They had already been forging his digital signature on key documents. Phase 4. Pushing me out. Grant's plan for me was specific. He was to increase psychological pressure, invite Sarah to events, be cold, be dismissive, make my life a polite hell until I could not take it anymore and filed for divorce myself. I immediately went to the digital safe where he kept our shared documents. I pulled up the prenup, the one I had signed without reading. I read every word, and I saw it. The clause the smiling lawyer had rushed me past. It stated clearly that if I initiated the divorce, I would receive a one-time inconvenience payout, a small sum, just enough to keep me quiet, not enough to matter. It was designed to punish me for leaving, but then I saw the other one, tucked away deep in the addendums, Section 17, the fraud clause. It was a single sentence, buried in legal jargon, but it was crystal clear. In the event that either party was convicted of civil or criminal fraud, the entire prenuptial agreement would be rendered null and void, all of it, gone. I sat there on the cold bathroom floor. The sun was rising, painting the marble walls in shades of pale gold, the profound aching pain of his betrayal, the humiliation of his affair. It all just evaporated. It burned off like fog, replaced by something I had not felt in 7 years. It was focus, cold, sharp, and absolute. This was no longer about a broken heart. This was no longer about love or jealousy. This was about war. It was about survival. And it was about justice. I copied every file, every message, every spreadsheet. I moved them to a secure, encrypted drive, one he could never find. Then I showered, got dressed, and went to the kitchen to make him his morning coffee. Just like I always did. The next morning, I was a woman on a mission. Grant left the penthouse at 8, kissing my cheek with a casual intimacy that made my skin crawl. He thought I was planning the menu for Thanksgiving. An hour later, I was on the other side of town, at a small credit union that Grant had never heard of. I accessed a safety deposit box held under my maiden name. Inside, beneath my grandmother's pearls, was a debit card. It was tied to an account she had opened for me when I turned 18. A runaway fund, she'd called it. Grant, despite his financial acumen, had never found it. I walked to the counter and withdrew $20,000 in cash. The teller counted it out in $100 bills, her face impassive. I did not drive the silver Mercedes Grant leased for me. I took the old Subaru I'd kept in storage, the last piece of my old life. I drove it to a neighborhood in East Austin, one dominated by auto body shops and taquerias, where the new glass and steel towers had not yet pushed out the brick and rebar buildings. My destination was an anonymous 2-story office building. There was no directory in the lobby. I walked up to the second floor. The door to Suite 204 was unlabeled, just painted a flat, industrial gray. I knocked. A buzzer sounded, loud and abrasive. I pushed the door open. The office was aggressively unremarkable. Gray carpet, metal desks, the smell of stale coffee. A man was sitting behind the farthest desk, his back to a window that looked out onto a brick wall. This was Marcus Thorne. I knew his reputation. A former forensic accountant for the SEC. He had quit after getting tangled in too much bureaucratic red tape. Now, he was the person you hired when you needed to find money that powerful men had made disappear. He looked to be in his late 50s, wearing a shirt that needed ironing, and his eyes were sharp. He did not stand. He simply pointed to the empty chair opposite his desk, a movement made while lifting a stained ceramic mug of black coffee to his lips. I sat. The silence stretched. He was observing me, taking in the cashmere sweater, the quiet diamond earrings. I knew he was categorizing me another rich wife, another cheating husband. He was waiting for the tears, the angry, hysterical story of betrayal. "Mr. Thorne," I began, my voice perfectly level. I placed the encrypted hard drive on the peeling laminate of his desk. "I am not here about my husband's affair." His eyes flickered, the first sign of genuine interest. "I am here," I said, leaning forward slightly, "because I believe my husband, Grant Thompson, is systematically defrauding his investors at Vanguard Equity Partners, and I want proof." Marcus stared at me for a long, quiet moment. He had seen anger. He had seen revenge. But the cold, clear focus in my eyes was new. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, his voice a low gravel. "Those are heavy words. You're talking about blowing up one of the biggest VC funds in the state. I am aware. This kind of work is not cheap." He gestured around the room. "We don't just take pictures of people coming out of hotels. We follow the money. That takes resources. And it is dangerous." I slid a thick manila envelope across the desk. It landed next to the hard drive. "That is $10,000 in cash. It's a retainer." "I have the money?" I met his gaze and held it. "And I am far more dangerous than you think." A very slow, almost imperceptible smile touched the corner of his mouth. He did not touch the envelope. He tapped the hard drive. "What's on this?" "My initial findings," I said, "copied from his phone 3 hours ago. Encrypted messages, spreadsheets, wire transfer logs to offshore shell companies. The entire plan." Now he sat up. He took the drive and plugged it into a rugged, air-gapped laptop on his credenza. He typed for several minutes, his eyes scanning the data I had organized. He let out a single, low whistle. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. He looked back at me, his professional mask fully in place. "This isn't just a plan, Mrs. Thompson. This is a confession." He stood, walked to the coffee pot, and refilled his mug. "All right, I'm in. But this drive isn't enough. He'll say you planted it. His lawyers will claim it was a jealous wife fabricating evidence. We need it from the source. We need irrefutable third-party verification." He turned, leaning his back against the filing cabinet. "We will trace every dollar. We will monitor their communications. We will build a case so tight that the district attorney and the SEC will be fighting over who gets to prosecute them first." He took a sip of his coffee. "But if we do this, we do it my way. No exceptions. What is your way? You go home. You go back to being the perfect wife. You are worried about flower arrangements for Thanksgiving. You are booking spa appointments. You are completely, blissfully ignorant. You must not, under any circumstance, let him know that anything has changed." He walked back to the desk and leaned on his knuckles, his face close to mine. "These men, they're arrogant, but they're not stupid. If they sense anything is wrong, they will bolt. That money will disappear into the digital wind, and we will never find it. Grant thinks you're a decoration. Your only job from this moment on is to be the most beautiful, clueless decoration he has ever seen." He stared at me, his eyes demanding the truth. "Can you do that? Can you sit at his table, smile in his face, knowing everything you know?" I thought of the cold marble, the hollow smile I had perfected, the years of silent accommodation. I nodded. "I've been rehearsing for this role for 5 years. For the next 3 weeks, I was the perfect wife. I finalized the Thanksgiving menu. I had my hair done. I attended a mind-numbingly dull charity luncheon and pledged an obscene amount of Grant's stolen money. And every night, I smiled as he lied to my face about his late meetings. My real life happened in 3-minute increments, locked in my bathroom, on a secure burner phone. Marcus Thorne worked with silent, terrifying efficiency. The updates came in daily, encrypted files that I would read and then delete. The first report was the money. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Marcus provided flowcharts that looked like a black spider's web, originating from Vanguard's main fund. The money moved. It went from Austin to a shell corporation in Delaware, then split. A portion, maybe 30%, went to another holding company in the Cayman Islands. The rest was funneled into high-risk, illiquid angel investments that were, in reality, controlled by Sarah. They were not just stealing, they were laundering, cleaning millions of dollars. The second report was the audio. Marcus had found a vulnerability in the custom smart home system Grant was so proud of. The microphones in the main living area, the ones Grant used to order music or dim the lights, were now Marcus's ears. The recordings were pristine. I listened to them in the dark, my hand over my mouth to stifle any sound. "She's so easy to manage," Grant's voice, brimming with contempt. "She's busy debating flower arrangements. That idiot has no idea what we're building." Then Sarah's laugh, a sound like glass breaking. "She's your pet, Grant. Just make sure she stays on her leash until we're done." They talked about Julian Croft. "The old man trusts me completely," Grant bragged. "He still thinks I'm his golden boy." "He's a sentimental fool," Sarah replied. "We'll dilute his shares in the next quarter. He'll be furious, but we'll just blame the market volatility. By the time he figures it out, we'll be in Zurich." The third report was photography, but not the kind I expected. Marcus was not a divorce detective, he was a financial investigator. There were no grainy shots of them kissing outside a hotel. There was a series of high-resolution photos, taken at night, in an underground parking garage downtown. It showed Grant and Sarah in a hushed, serious conversation with a third man. Marcus had identified him a disbarred attorney known to the SEC as a specialist in creative asset hiding. They were not just planning an escape, they were building a fortress. Then, at the end of the third week, Marcus requested a secure call. His digital messages were always dispassionate, just facts. But on the phone, his voice was different, It was urgent. "Mrs. Thompson, we have a complication," he said, skipping any greeting. "I've been looking deeper into Serafina. She's not who Grant thinks she is." "What do you mean?" "Your husband thinks they're partners. He's wrong. He's a tool. She's running her own game." Marcus explained. He had uncovered a separate, encrypted email account. Sarah was not just sleeping with Grant. She was actively trying to seduce Julian Croft. "I thought that was the plan," I said. "To distract him." "No," Marcus said. "This is different. These aren't distraction emails. She's sending him photos. She's arranging private meetings. She's not just trying to cover their tracks. She's trying to get her claws into Julian's entire estate. She's positioning herself as a sympathetic ear, the only one at the firm who truly respects his legacy." He paused, letting it sink in. "She's playing both of them. Grant, the 60-year-old Julian. It doesn't matter. Her goal is to pit them against each other, make Grant the fall guy, and take the entire fund for herself." The image was sickening. Sarah, playing the victim to Julian, while playing the partner to Grant. "You're not dealing with a cheater, Mrs. Thompson." Marcus's gravelly voice came through the phone. "You're dealing with a true sociopath. Grant is just a greedy, arrogant fool. She is the brain. He's a pawn, just like you." He was right. Grant was a willing pawn, but a pawn nonetheless. Any last, lingering ember of pity I might have had for him, any memory of the man I thought I loved, was extinguished. This was bigger than my marriage. This was pest control. "We have everything," Marcus concluded. "The wire transfers, the audio of them planning the fraud, the meetings with the money launderer. We have Sarah's double cross. We have enough to put them both in federal prison for 20 years. The case is ironclad." There was a long silence. "So?" he asked, his voice returning to its flat, professional tone. "What do you want to do?" I had the evidence. I had the motive. I now needed the weapon. Marcus Thorne was a ghost, brilliant at finding the dirt, but he was not the one to stand in the light and fight. For that, I needed a monster. I booked a consultation with Talia Evans. Talia was not simply a lawyer. She was a boogeyman that Austin billionaires warned each other about. Her reputation was not built on amicable settlements. It was built on scorched earth, on finding every hidden asset, every offshore account, and every moral failing, and using them to publicly and financially flay her opponents. Her office, on the highest floor of the frostiest skyscraper downtown, was a testament to her success. It was less a law office and more a modern art gallery, all sharp angles, cold steel, and unnerving silence. Talia herself, a woman in her early 40s, was a testament to her success. She wore a severe, custom-tailored suit that looked like it was woven from black ice. She didn't greet me, she assessed me, her eyes sweeping over me with a profound, expensive boredom. I was just another rich, sad wife. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, her voice as sharp as the crease in her trousers. She didn't look up from her monitor. "My retainer is $100,000. I do not take cases I find uninteresting. My time is billable in 6-minute increments. You have my attention for the next 5. I did not sit down immediately. I walked to her desk, a vast slab of black marble, and placed the hard drive on its surface. "My husband is sleeping with his director of investor relations," I said. Talia finally looked up, a sigh of profound irritation escaping her. "Mrs. Thompson, infidelity is a tedious complaint, and in Texas, it barely—" "I don't care who he's sleeping with," I said, my voice cutting hers off. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrow twitched. I had her full attention. "This is not about adultery. This is about conspiracy to commit wire fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. It's about a systematic plot to defraud his investors, primarily Julian Croft, of over $80 million. The affair is just tacky window dressing." The boredom in her eyes evaporated. It was replaced by a sudden, intense, and predatory focus. She looked at me, truly looked at me, For the first time. Then she looked at the drive. Silently, she slid the drive across her desk, plugged it into a port, and put on a headset. I sat in the impossibly uncomfortable chair opposite her. For 10 full minutes, the only sound in the room was the subtle click of her mouse. I watched her face. I saw her pupils dilate as she read the spreadsheets. I saw her lips thin into a bloodless line as she listened to the audio of Grant and Sarah mocking Julian. I saw her lean in, her professional mask cracking to reveal the shark beneath. She finally pulled the headset off and set it down. She leaned back in her chair and stared at me. "My God," she said. Her voice was no longer bored. It was alive. "You haven't just caught him, Mrs. Thompson. You have him in a steel trap. You are not here to file for divorce. You are here to detonate a nuclear warhead." She stood and walked to the wall of glass that overlooked the Capitol. The prenup. I remember it. My old firm drafted it. They were very proud of that filing clause. They thought they were protecting him from a gold digger. "The fraud clause," I said. "Section 17. Talia laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. Section 17. They buried it, thinking it would never matter. Mrs. Thompson, that prenup is now a very expensive piece of paper to start a fire with. It is completely, utterly void." She turned back to me, her eyes electric. "We are not going to ask for 50%. We are not going to ask for alimony. We are going to sue for damages. We are going to freeze every asset he has, known and unknown. By the time I am finished, Grant Thompson will be lucky if he has enough money left for a bus pass." She was back at her desk, her fingers flying. "But this is bigger than you. This is criminal. We have to move carefully. We need Julian Croft. He's the victim. We need to bring him in, show him this, and coordinate our attack. The strategy, a synchronized strike," she said, not looking up. "The moment the SEC is notified, we file our civil suit on behalf of Croft, and I file your divorce petition simultaneously. We hit them with 3 federal-level cases in the same hour. They won't be able to hide a single dollar." She was about to pick up her phone, already in attack mode. "There's one more thing," I said. She looked up, annoyed. "It's Thanksgiving next week. My husband has invited Sarah. He's trying to humiliate me into leaving. He wants to make a scene." Talia stopped. The professional, lethal mask dropped, and for a second, I saw the woman behind it. A slow, cold, truly terrifying smile spread across her face. Did he?" she murmured. "How very theatrical." She looked at her calendar. "Well, we can't have him disappointed." She pressed a button on her intercom. "Jessica, cancel my trip to Aspen for Thanksgiving. I have a client dinner." She looked back at me, that chilling smile still in place. "You go home. Maya, you plan your party. You order the most expensive flowers. You act like the perfect broken-hearted wife. I will spend the next week drafting the petitions that will end his life." She stood and walked me to the door. "And don't worry about setting an extra place for me. I'll be your +1. Talia's office felt different this time. It was 2 days later, late in the afternoon, and the air was heavy, static with unspoken power. Julian Croft was a man who commanded any room he entered. He was 60 years old, with a mane of silver hair and the deep, assured voice of old money and generational power. He was not used to being summoned. His wife, Eleanor, was his opposite. Where Julian was expansive, she was contained. She was 58, dressed in quiet, impeccable taste, and her eyes missed nothing. She was the one who managed their philanthropic foundations, the one who, as I understood it, quietly managed their legacy. Julian began, his patience already thin. "Talia, I appreciate you being direct, but I'm here as a courtesy. My relationship with Grant Thompson is over 2 decades long, whatever marital spat you're having. Mrs. Thompson, it has nothing to do with my finances. Grant is my golden boy." Talia did not flinch. "Mr. Croft," I brought you here because Grant Thompson is not your protege. He is a parasite, and he is robbing you blind. Maya. My hands were steady. I had rehearsed this. I did not present it as a betrayed wife. I presented it as an architect laying out a blueprint. I spoke about the shell corporations. I showed the flowcharts Marcus had prepared, the black and white lines showing his money moving from Vanguard to the Cayman Islands. Julian's face flushed. This is absurd. It's fabricated. Grant would never. Would he? Eleanor spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through her husband's bluster. Julian, be quiet and listen. Show us the rest, Mrs. Thompson. Talia dimmed the lights and hit a key on her laptop. The speakers in the pristine office came to life. We all sat in silence, listening to Grant's voice fill the room. The old man trusts me completely. So sentimental. We'll dilute his shares. Blame the market. Julian Croft's face went from red to a deep, dangerous purple. He was breathing heavily, his hands clenching the arms of his chair. He looked like a man having a heart attack, but the worst was yet to come. Talia clicked to the next audio file. Serafina's laugh, like breaking glass. He's an old fool, Grant. A few compliments about his legacy, and he'll sign anything. Mr. Croft, I said, my voice gentle but firm. This was never just about your money. It was also a personal attack. Grant and Sarah, they don't respect you. They mock you. I'll destroy him, Julian whispered, his voice hoarse. I'll have him disbarred. I'll ruin him. It's worse than that, I said. I looked at Eleanor, knowing she would be the one to understand the true violation. Serafina was not just working with Grant. She was playing her own game. Talia brought up the final file, the emails. She had not sent them to Julian's corporate address, but to his personal one, the one he used for the foundation. They were disgustingly clever, full of admiration for his wisdom, flattery about his enduring influence, and then the invitations. I'd love to pick your brain, just the two of us. The energy at these events is so stale, perhaps a private drink sometime. Attached to the last one was a photo of her at a gala, demure but undeniably suggestive. Julian's face went white, a ghastly, sallow color. The rage was gone, replaced by something far colder, profound, personal humiliation. He had not just been swindled, he had been played. They had sized him up, at 60 years old, as a pathetic, aging fool, easily manipulated by a young woman's flattery. His pride, the bedrock of his entire identity, was shattered. He was silent. His wife was not. Eleanor Croft leaned forward, her gaze locking with mine. The air crackled between us, an unspoken understanding of two women who had been dismissed by the arrogant men in their lives. "You poor girl," she said, though there was no pity in her voice, only steel. They underestimated both of us. She turned to Talia. "What is the plan?" Talia was all business. "The plan is a coordinated strike. On Monday morning, 9 a.m., my firm files Maya's divorce petition, citing the fraud clause. Simultaneously, your firm files an $80 million civil suit for damages. At the exact same moment, a courier, arranged by Mr. Thorne, will deliver this entire evidence package to the Securities and Exchange Commission. We'll freeze every asset before they've finished their morning coffee." Julian nodded, the color slowly returning to his face. "Yes. Good. Annihilate them." "It's a perfect plan," I said, and all three of them looked at me. "But before Monday, I have a request." I told them about Thanksgiving. I told them about Grant's casual, cruel invitation. "He wants to humiliate me, Mr. Croft. He wants to bring his mistress into my home to prove that I am powerless." I leaned forward. "So, I am inviting you. Come to Thanksgiving dinner, all of you. Let them serve you champagne. Let them smile in your face. I want you to sit at my table and look them both in the eye when they finally realize that everything is over. Julian's lip curled into a grim smile. I'll be there. I want to see the look on that boy's face when he realizes what he's done. We will be there, Eleanor corrected, holding up a single manicured hand. But your timeline is wrong, Talia. Monday is too late. Talia raised an eyebrow. Eleanor, to freeze assets of that magnitude, the courts must be open. I do not care about the assets right now, Eleanor said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I care about justice. You said Mr. Thorne has a contact at the SEC. Talia nodded. Yes, a direct line. Good. Eleanor looked at me. We will come to your dinner, Mrs. Thompson. We will eat your turkey, and then, just before you serve the pumpkin pie, you will make a phone call. She smiled, a thin, chilling expression. I want them arrested at the table, in front of everyone. I want them taken out of your penthouse in handcuffs. It is Thanksgiving Day. The penthouse is a symphony of manufactured warmth, a stage set for a perfect life. The air is thick with the scent of a 20-pound turkey roasting in the convection oven, the sharp, woody smell of sage, and the sweet smoke of pumpkin pies cooling on the calicotta counter. Everything is flawless. Every surface gleams. I check my reflection in the dark glass of the wine fridge. I am wearing a floor-length dress of deep, crimson velvet. It clings to my body, a stark, vivid splash of color in this monochrome home. It is a color Grant explicitly hates. It's too flashy. Maya, he once said, his lip curling in distaste. It looks desperate. Today, it is not a dress. It is a suit of armor. Grant walks into the kitchen. He is already dressed, adjusting the cuffs of his outrageously expensive watch. He inhales deeply and smiles. That wide, satisfied ownership smile. The smile of a man who believes the world exists to confirm his own genius. See, he says, his voice dripping with condescension. You can be reasonable. Everything looks wonderful, baby. He leans in and kisses my cheek. The casual, proprietary touch, the scent of his cologne, makes my stomach clench. I have to use every ounce of my training to keep from recoiling. I just smile. This is for you, he says, pulling a small navy velvet box from his pocket. Thank you for being so understanding about, for welcoming Sarah. I open it. A diamond tennis bracelet. It flashes, cold and brilliant, under the spotlights of his kitchen. It is beautiful. It was purchased with Julian Croft's money. It is blood money. I snap it onto my wrist, the diamonds cold against my skin. It's perfect. Grant. Thank you. I turn away, picking up my phone, pretending to check the oven timer. I open the secure app. A single new message from Marcus Thorne. We are live. Audio and video are active from the van across the street. We see the front door. We are recording everything. I delete the message. I slip into the walk-in pantry, the one place I am sure has no microphones, and pull out the burner phone. I dial my best friend, Chloe. She is a journalist, a sharp, cynical woman who has hated Grant for 5 years. She knows about the affair, but not the fraud. Hey, I whisper. Change of plans. Can you get here? I need you 30 minutes early. Maya, what's wrong? Is he? Nothing's wrong, I say, a genuine smile touching my lips for the first time today. Everything is finally right, but I need you to bring your camera, the good one, from the station. A camera to Thanksgiving. Grant will have a stroke. Tell him you're shooting a vlog for the paper's lifestyle section. A lavish Thanksgiving in the Austin skyline. Just be ready to hit record when I tell you. I need a witness. There is a beat of silence. I can hear the dawning comprehension, the grin in her voice. Oh my God, it's happening. Isn't it? I will be there in 15 minutes. I am getting the I told you so shot of a lifetime. I hang up and walk back into the formal dining room. The long glass table is set for 8, polished to a mirror shine. I pick up the small cream-colored place cards, written in elegant, sloping calligraphy. I move them around, savoring the moment. This is my own ritual. I take the card for Serafina. I place it exactly where I want it. On her right, the seat for Julian Croft. On her left, the seat for Talia Evans. Grant wanders in, a glass of champagne already in his hand. He looks at the table arrangement, his gaze casual, before he does a double take. He frowns, picking up the card next to Sarah's empty seat. Talia Evans, he says, his brow furrowing. You invited your lawyer? Isn't that a little weird, kinda aggressive? Even for you. I look up from straightening a silver fork. I give him the brightest, most accommodating, most vapid smile I can muster, the one he trained me to use. Oh, I just thought they'd find each other interesting, I say, my voice light as air. Sarah is so involved in the business, and Talia is a specialist. He sips his champagne, suspicious. A specialist in what, I tilt my head, the picture of wifely innocence. Complex mergers, I say, and hostile takeovers. Chloe arrives first, exactly 15 minutes later, just as I asked. She breezes in, camera already resting on her shoulder. Maya, darling. She kisses the air near my cheek, her eyes sparkling with manic energy. This place, she says, panning the camera around the room. It's just obscene. The readers of the lifestyle section are going to eat this up. Grant, standing by the bar, preens. He loves an audience. Feel free to get some B-roll of the skyline, Chloe, he says, puffing his chest. The light is perfect this time of day. Oh, I will, Grant, Chloe says, her smile razor sharp. I plan on capturing everything. The main doorbell rings, a polite melodic chime. This is it. Grant practically vibrates, setting his champagne flute down and smoothing his tie. He looks at me. Be nice. Maya. I smile my empty smile and walk to the door. I pull open the heavy oak panel. Serafina stands there. She is, I admit, breathtaking. She is wearing a slip dress of pure white silk, a color so virginal and pure it is an act of obscene aggression. It hangs on her as if she were a Greek statue, utterly out of place for a family dinner. She is not dressed for Thanksgiving. She is dressed for her coronation. Maya, she breathes, stepping inside and enveloping me in a cloud of her expensive perfume. She gives me a cold, dry hug. Thank you so much for having me. You're being so incredibly generous about this. Her voice is syrupy with fake sympathy. She pulls back and looks around. Your home is just lovely. The condescension is palpable. She is already measuring the drapes. Sarah, Grant says, his voice an octave lower, booming with pleasure. He crosses the room and hands her a flute of the really expensive champagne, the vintage Krug he saves for closing deals. I'm so glad you could make it. Their eyes lock over the rim of her glass. Over my head, it is a moment of pure, shared triumph. They have done it. They have breached the final wall. The stupid, boring wife has been put in her place, and the real queen has arrived. They think they have already won. They are radiating arrogance. Chloe's camera is pointed at the floor, but I know the red recording light is on. Please, I say, gesturing to the dining room. Let's sit down. Appetizers are on the table. Grant leads Sarah to her chair, his hand possessively on the small of her back. They settle in. Sarah glances at her place card, then at the one to her left. Talia Evans, she says, a slight frown creasing her perfect brow. The lawyer, I've heard of her. She's intense, Grant says, waving it off. Maya's little project. Don't worry about it. Right as he says it, the doorbell chimes again. Grant looks genuinely confused. He turns to me, his brow furrowed. We're waiting for someone else. You invited Chloe and Talia? Who else? Maya. Just a few more friends, I say. You know, the more the merrier. I walk back to the foyer, my velvet dress whispering against the marble. I can feel Grant's eyes on my back, annoyed at this new variable he cannot control. I pull the door open. Talia Evans stands in the center, flanked by Julian and Eleanor Croft. Talia is wearing a black suit so sharp it could draw blood. Eleanor is in elegant navy, her pearls gleaming. Julian looks like a thundercloud. The silence in the penthouse is absolute. The only sound is the low hum of the ventilation. I step back. "Welcome, please, come in." They step across the threshold. I watch Grant's face. He sees Talia, which he expected. Then he sees Julian Croft. His smile freezes. His face goes rigid. He recognizes his mentor, his victim, but it makes no sense. Why is Julian here? He looks like a malfunctioning robot. Then I look at Sarah. She has not just gone pale. All the blood has drained from her face, leaving a waxy, greenish-white mask. Her eyes are wide, fixed on the trio at the door. She does not just see Julian, the man she was trying to seduce. She sees Eleanor, the wife she dismissed, and she sees Talia Evans, the shark whose reputation she definitely knows. She recognizes instantly that this is not a party. This is an ambush. This is a firing squad. Her hand trembles, and she sets her champagne flute down on the table with a sharp clink. Julian Croft does not wait. He strides into the dining room, his gaze sweeping over the opulent table, the mountains of food, and landing on the two of them. Grant is still standing, frozen. Sarah looks like she is about to be physically ill. "Good evening, Grant." "Serafina," Julian says. His voice is not loud. It is perfectly calm, perfectly measured, and colder than the marble beneath our feet. "Thank you for the invitation. Eleanor and I wouldn't have missed this for the world." The six of us sit at the long glass table. Chloe hovers near the living room archway, her camera pointed at the skyline, but the lens is angled just enough to catch the table. The air is so thick it feels like we are underwater. The smell of roasted turkey and sage is suddenly, sickeningly overwhelming. Grant, still frozen by the door, finally stammers, "Julian, this is a shock. A wonderful shock, of course, but I had no idea Maya invited you. We should have." "Oh, this was my idea," I say. My voice rings out, sharp and clear, cutting through his pathetic attempts. All eyes snap to me. I take my seat at the head of the table. Grant has always sat here, not today. "I've been planning this for weeks. Chloe, are you getting this? This is the part I want to remember." Chloe's camera swings around, the red recording light a baleful, unblinking eye. Grant flinches. Talia Evans, seated to Sarah's left, leans forward. She places a thick, spiral-bound document on the table, right next to Sarah's untouched appetizer plate. The thud of it hitting the glass is the loudest sound I have ever heard. "Serafina Varana," Talia says, her voice casual, as if passing the salt. "I'm Talia Evans. I believe this is for you." Sarah just stares at it. Her hand is shaking so violently she clasps it in her lap. What is that?" she whispers. "That," Julian Croft says from her right, "is a civil complaint, my civil complaint, for $80 million in damages, for fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. Read it. It's thorough." Sarah lets out a small, strangled sound and pushes her chair back, a screech of metal on marble. She is about to bolt. "Sit down," Eleanor Croft commands from across the table. Her voice is not loud, but it has the force of a physical blow. Sarah freezes, half standing, and then, slowly, sinks back into her chair. "You will want to hear the rest of this." Talia smiles, that cold, black ice smile. She slides a second identical document across the table to Grant. It stops perfectly in front of his plate. "Grant," Talia says, "this one is for you. It's a petition for divorce from your wife." Grant just stares at it, dumbfounded. He lets out a short, sharp, "Ha!" He is still in denial. A divorce, Maya. This is insane. My prenup is ironclad. You get nothing. You'll be ruined. You should read it. Grant, I say, my voice patient. Specifically, Section 17, Subsection 4, the fraud clause. The blood drains from his face. He knows exactly what I am talking about. He snatches the document, his hands ripping at the pages. That's standard boiler. It's the clause that says in the event of criminal or civil fraud, our entire prenuptial agreement is rendered null and void, Talia says, tapping her pen on the table. And as you can see from Mr. Croft's lawsuit, the event has arrived. I'll be suing for damages on Maya's behalf, as well. You see, Grant, you don't just lose half, you lose everything. Julian Croft leans forward. We have the wire transfers. Grant, we have the audio recordings of you and Ms. Varana in this very penthouse, plotting to dilute my shares, laughing about how you were going to blame it on the market. He then turns his arctic gaze on Sarah. We also have the emails, Ms. Varana, the ones you sent to my private account, the ones with the photos. Did you really think I was so old and so stupid that I would fall for that? You didn't just try to steal from me. You tried to play me. Grant's head snaps toward her, his face a mask of sudden, dawning horror. He finally understands. You were. With him. Sarah is silent. She is just a statue of ice, her white dress a shroud. Grant turns to me, his face collapsing, the arrogance, the control. It all melts away, leaving only the weak, desperate little man underneath. Maya, he begs, his voice cracking. Maya, please. You don't know what you're doing. This is a mistake. We can fix this. You've ruined us. You've ruined everything. I stand up. The crimson velvet of my dress feels like armor. The stolen diamond bracelet on my wrist feels like a shackle I am about to unlock. I look down the long, cold table at my husband. No, Grant, I say, and my voice is perfectly calm. You didn't ruin us. You ruined yourself. You did all of this, every last bit of it, the moment you thought I was stupid. And right at that moment, a new sound cuts through the air. It is not the melodic chime of the doorbell. It is a hard, sharp, official knock. Knock. Knock on the front door. Everyone freezes. Except me. I knew it was coming. Eleanor's final request. Marcus Thorne, listening from his van, making the call the second he heard Grant's confession. I smile. I walk out of the dining room, past Chloe and her steady camera, to the front door. I pull it open. 2 men in dark suits, badges clipped to their belts, stand there. They are not local police. They are financial crimes detectives. Ma'am, one says. We're here for Grant Thompson and Serafina Varana. I step aside, holding the door open wide. Please, come in, gentlemen. The turkey is ready, I say, looking back at the dining room, where Grant and Sarah are being pulled to their feet. But it looks like our guests of honor have to leave. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know what you think. So please comment below and let me know where you're listening from. Let's chat. And if you loved this, please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and give us extra support by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.